Okay. So last week, we discussed Arjuna's question. So Arjuna Vacha, and he said that it is almost impossible to control the mind. It's easier to control the wind. Then how, what's the possibility? Krishna, this doesn't make sense to me. It's impractical. Arjuna is saying it's impractical and unendurable to me. And after Arjun mentions the mind, it gives various qualities of the mind, that it's restless, turbulent, obstinate, etc. It's very strong. So hearing that, Krishna agrees. Krishna agrees with Arjun, and he says, "You're right." So here we'll read in text 35 of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena Chagrihyate. Lord Shri Krishna said, "O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment." So Krishna is acknowledging that yes, it is difficult, but it is not impossible, and there is a process to make this seemingly difficult task possible. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, the difficulty of controlling the obstinate mind, as expressed by Arjuna, is accepted by the personality of Godhead. But at the same time, he suggests that by practice and detachment, it is possible. What is this practice? In the present age, no one can observe the strict rules and regulations of placing oneself in sacred place, focusing the mind on supersoul, restraining the senses and mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone, etc. That's what we learned in chapter 6, right? All of these very tough rules that are in Kali Yuga, it is not really possible for us. So by the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord. So by the process of Krishna consciousness, one is able to use devotional service or bhakti. So what are the 9 forms of devotional service? Anybody remembers? 9 processes of bhakti.
Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Archanam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam.
Padasevanam is also there.
Yeah, Padasevanam.
Thank you very much. Okay. So Shravanam, hearing, like we are all doing right now. Hearing, the process starts with Shravanam. And then comes Kirtanam. We share, right? The 9 processes of bhakti. So it's hearing, then speaking. Some glories, many of you go after the session in the WhatsApp group, you appreciate what you have learned, the glories of Bhagavad Gita, the teachings, it's so powerful. So you're actually doing kirtan, that is actually kirtanam. Then comes remembering the Lord, Vishnu Smaranam, right? So just like Prahlad Maharaj, you would always remember the Lord, and no matter what difficulties, they wouldn't touch him because he is always in memory of the Lord rather than focusing on the difficulties. Then comes the Pada Sevanam, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, just like Lakshmi Devi. She is always at the lotus feet. So for us, how does that apply? We serve the Vaishnavas because understood that Vaishnavas are the lotus feet of the Lord. Devotees, Krishna is never alone. Krishna is always surrounded by devotees. So we do Pada Sevanam by serving those who are serving the personality of Godhead, right? Das anudas, anudas, anudas. Servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. So you're serving those who are serving those who are serving those who are serving the personality of Godhead. Then comes Archanam or deity worship. Some of you might be able to do it, some of you might not be able to do it. Praying, Vandanam. We offer prayers to the Lord. My dear Krishna, please help me. My dear Krishna, please give me the intelligence to do this service. Dasyam, executing orders, just like Hanuman. He is in Dasya mode. Whatever Lord Ramachandra says, he's there to execute. And Sakhyam, serving him as a friend, almost, being equal like Arjuna, serving the Lord. as a friend. And then comes Atma Nivedanam, complete surrender. So it's not like you have to do all 9 of them, right? The main important part is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, or Shravanam, Kirtanam. These 2 are the priority. And below this, any of the others you do, that's wonderful. Or rather, the others actually eventually naturally come in to place, right? Or ending in Atma Nivedana, complete surrender to the personality of Godhead, like in chapter 18, text 66, Krishna mentioned. Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshashami maschaha. That you surrender unto me, forget all varieties of religion. I will take care of you. I will take care of all your past deeds and misdeeds. Don't worry. I'm here for you, right? So that's the ultimate. But before that, there is all these different things. But it starts with Shravanam Kirtanam. So we should make sure we listen, we hear Krishna Katha. Without Krishna Katha, Kirtanam won't happen. And without Shravanam Kirtanam, Smaranam won't happen. We won't be able to remember Krishna. And Krishna consciousness makes no sense without remembering Krishna. The whole part of Krishna consciousness is consciousness where Krishna is present. Somehow or other in our daily activities, we are able to remember Krishna, do it for Krishna, use Krishna's words as principles in our life, etc. So Krishna is a part of our consciousness as we traverse through our daily activities. And that requires remembering. Otherwise, forgetfulness of Krishna is the opposite, which we have lived through and we know very well how to live that life, being forgetful of Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says, Krishna bhulya jeev bhog vancha kare. Pishachi Maya Tera Japatiya Thore, which means forgetting Krishna, the Jiva, the living entity, desires for gratifying his or her senses through material activities. And as one tries to do that, Pishachi, the that means, what's the word for Pishachi? The demon, demoness, Maya, Pishachi Maya, that is Japatiya Thore, embraces you. So when a demoness embraces you, what happens? It cannot be good. So that's how it looks. It looks very alluring. We go towards Maya, just like a firefly. Before Durga Puja in Calcutta, at least in Bengal, we have that. I know, sure, other places also. These flies are attracted to the light, and as soon as they come in contact with the light, the heat kills them. Right? So they have a very short lifespan. So like that, the living entity is attracted to the glitter of Maya, and as soon as it comes in the grasp of Maya, all happiness is gone. There is no happiness that can be derived from matter. Happiness comes from what? If there's no happiness that can be derived from matter, where can happiness be derived from?
Connecting with the Supreme.
So happiness derived from spirit, something spiritual. So happiness is only possible when there is a spiritual connection. So how come materialists are happy? Is it possible to be a materialist and be happy?
Temporary.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Okay. Venkatesh Prabhu said temporary. Yes, Yogesh Prabhu, go ahead.
Oh, it was the same answer that I wanted to give. It's all short-lived. It is not nitya. It's not shashvata. So that is, it is not permanent.
Okay. What else?
What looks like happiness is more sense gratification. That is assumed to be happiness, but in the long run.
That is happiness. So there is happiness in drugs, there is happiness in charity, there is happiness in education, and there is happiness in one's relationship with Krishna. So what's the difference?
Prabhuji, when we attach ourselves to temporary things, to like material things, it's a temporary happiness. And when you
The temporary part has been covered. So previous others have said, okay, temporary. I'm asking for one more characteristic of happiness.
Prabhuji, I feel that it is the highest form of happiness.
So quality of happiness. Right. So
Ever increasing?
That also, yes. So quality of happiness is different in drugs, in charity, in education, in relationship to Krishna, right? There's happiness in all levels. It's just the quality is different. Just like milk that is highly watered down has a certain taste, but milk that is directly from the cow, A2 milk that has a whole different taste, right? Condensed milk, even better. So like that, happiness has different flavors, and and rightly somebody also mentioned that it's ever expanding. So it's not just happy, but it's growing. The flavor is not just high, but it's also stay high forever and expanding. So that's what we get in the spiritual connection. So that's the 9 processes of bhakti being mentioned here. This is very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, that is mentioned that as we go through the processes of bhakti, it is purging or clearing the cache, right? Clearing the, just like we do in computers, right? Clearing the cache, not like cache as in money, cache as in memory. So clearing all the materialistic things, all the preconceived notions that have been there for time immemorial, so many birth after birth, so many millennia, we have had certain things. All of these are being cleansed through the bhakti process. The first and the foremost of such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna. This is very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. Just like Rukmini Devi, she heard about Krishna, fell in love with Krishna, wrote a letter to Krishna. Krishna came, kidnapped her, married her, and she was happy. So it all started with hearing, the hearing process. Unless we know how wonderful is Krishna, there is no attraction. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. So more we hear about Krishna, the more we get detached from everything else. So that's very important to understand. Just like, children grow up with parents. They're very attached when they're kids. But as they fall in love and they get married, right? Parents become secondary and the spouse becomes primary, right? So similarly, when we know more about Krishna, we realize our real identity, our deep connection. Slowly, other things that are so-called happiness giving, so-called dear to us. For example, I used to be a big fan of Shakira growing up, and I thought I could never give that up. I was very attached to meat eating. I thought that could never be given up. I was attached to many different things. Never did drugs or alcohol, but other things I had attachment to, and I thought those can never go away. I'm going to study Bhagavad Gita, but those are not going to go. And my mentor was very kind. He's like, you don't have to give anything up. Just let it naturally flow. And as more and more bhakti crept in, more and more attachment to Krishna came, other things became less and less relevant, less and less important. And things that are like duties, of course, we do that, taking care of parents, earning money, living social life, having social duties, paying taxes, etc. Those of course we do. But things that were so-called like cannot live without this, those kind of things don't take as much importance, and it's a natural progression. As you become more attached to Krishna, vairagya is the word given here. By detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one easily learns vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of mind and spirit. Impersonal spiritual detachment is more difficult than attaching the mind to the activities of Krishna. So impersonal detachment is called neti principle. Neti, not this, not this, not that, not this, not this, not that, not that. Everything is a no, very negative. And that's not how we are. That's not how the soul has been designed by Krishna. So rather, we accept something positive, and through that, the negativity goes away. We accept light, so darkness goes away, right? We bring Krishna, Maya automatically leaves. Whereas the Ashtanga process or the impersonal process can be, sorry, not the Ashtanga, the impersonal process is that we say no to everything, food, money, this, that, married life, all of this. No, everything is bad, everything is bad, everything is bad, right? And then whatever is left, spiritual, that is good. And that might work for some people, but for most people, that's not how we can live a proper life. And in Kali Yuga especially, that's not possible to live like that unless you go to the Himalayas and live alone, naked, no clothes, nothing. That's not for most of us. So bhakti is very practical, very, very practical. And that's what Krishna is giving us. In fact, he's saying it. This is what you need to do. So the point is, use everything, but don't be attached to it. Detachment. There's two things Krishna is saying in this verse, that, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. The suitable practice is Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing, chanting, etc., remembering the Lord, and through practice of detachment. As you do Shravanam Kirtanam Smaranam, you also get detached from matter. And when you detach from matter, the mind is less distracted. So just like when you are on the road, there are a lot of people selling a lot of things, right? Eventually what happens? You stop paying attention to them. And thereby your mind is not bothered that there are people, knocking on your glass when you're at a crossing, people, beggars asking for money, this, that. It doesn't bother you anymore because you moved on, right? They're not important. So similarly, all the distractions and stuff like that the mind is constantly like, what? Constantly the mind is like a dog. Have you seen those dogs, like they're looking at squirrel and this and a ball and that's how the mind is, constantly getting distracted. When those things are not important to us, then the mind really is not that distracted. That's how you control the mind, is by slowly focusing it towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is practical because by hearing about Krishna, one becomes automatically attached to the Supreme Spirit. This attachment is called Parishanubhuti. Parishanubhuti. Am I saying it right? Parishanubhuti. I hope I'm saying it right. Spiritual satisfaction. It is just like the feeling of satisfaction a hungry man has for every morsel of food he eats. The more one eats while hungry, the more one feels satisfaction and strength. Similarly, by discharging of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction as the mind becomes detached from material objectives. It is something like curing a disease by expert treatment and appropriate diet. Hearing of the transcendental activities of the Lord Krishna is therefore expert treatment for the mad mind, and eating the foodstuff offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for the suffering patient. This treatment is a process of Krishna consciousness. Okay. So Krishna says practice and detachment. So practice, quite a few practices are given. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, eating Krishna Prasad, chanting Krishna's holy name, right? Serving the devotees, etc. And as we do this, slowly detachment comes. And when we are detached, the mind is not attracted or distracted to multiple things. We can focus. Now, story time. Bharat is named after the great king called Bharat Maharaj, who was the king of Bharatvarsha, which used to be practically the whole world. Not the whole world, but practically the whole world. Europe, Africa. Srila Prabhupada describes that when Bharat Maharaj decided to leave and go to the forest, and his end was coming soon, he gave his sons different parts of planet Earth. And Europe was given to somebody, Africa was given to somebody. I don't know about the North America, but I know North America was in the map because Ravan was exporting gold to Brazil at that time. So these were, it's not like the today's known world was not known to the Vedic paradigm. The entire world was Vedic. It was called Bharatvarsha. And King Bharat, he was the king and empire of the entire thing. And at the end of his life, he decided, okay, I have lived a good life. I have ruled with the right, process. And now it's time for my children to take over and I should leave. So he went to the forest. He gave up all his belongings. He took up mendicant clothes and he was in the forest. And as he was in the forest, he was doing tapasya, he was chanting Krishna's holy name and slowly elevating his consciousness so that at the time of death, he can remember Krishna and die. That's the whole goal of a devotee, is Ante Narayana Smriti. Right? And Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna mentions multiple times that at the time of death, whatever you think is where you arrive. Think of me, you come back to me. So Bharat Maharaj was very dutifully practicing that. But what happened? One day, he's a Kshatriya. He's a protector by default. So one day, Bharat Maharaj saw a pregnant deer was chased by a lion or a tiger, I forget, chased by a predator. And as the mother deer was running, there was a river or something where she was about to cross. In fear, the pregnant deer, delivered a baby fawn, and Bharat Maharaj went and protected the baby from the predator and took care of the baby deer. And again, this protective nature of Bharat Maharaj, he was taking care of the baby. Okay, I need to take care of it till it can walk, till it can eat. And then every moment Bharat Maharaj would be like thinking, oh, how's the deer? How is he doing? Is he okay? If I die, who'll take care of the deer? Mother is not there. I am supposed to be taking care of the deer. Like that, as he was thinking and thinking, his death came. And at the time of death, Bharat Maharaj's thought went to the deer. Oh my God, what will happen to that deer? And guess what? Such a great personality who had attained the second highest level. So he was in Bhava platform, right? So end is prema, so love for Krishna. So he was the Bhava, like having spiritual emotions for the personality of Godhead. So he reached all that, that highest level. Still, because he thought of the deer, he had to take another birth. And this time he was born as a deer. And he was like, man, that sucks, such a bummer. So Krishna's mercy, he remembered his past life. So even though a deer, he couldn't speak, he could remember his past life. And he found a Muni Rishi's ashram, and there he would hear every single day. He would hear Krishna Katha and stay with the devotees, eat the remnants of the prasad that they would throw away. And that way he left his deer life. After that, he was born as Jara Bharat. And as Jara Bharat, of course, I've shared the story with you guys before, and there he was, lived first part of his life as a complete, mendicant, like a retarded person. And then as he met King Rahugana, he was giving spiritual knowledge, and King Rahugana took his shelter, became his spiritual master, etc., etc. So Bharat Maharaj eventually showed his spiritual form, and then he went back to Godhead. Now the point is not spiritual form, but spiritually elevated form. The fact that he is such a great personality, eventually as he met King Rahugana, that part of him came out, and eventually he went back to Godhead. But the point is, even such great person, if they deviate at the last moment, they can fall into the material pool. So that's what is being discussed here. Next verse, Krishna is saying, text 36. Somebody wants to read? My Sanskrit is horrible, as you know. Feel free to read. Anybody wants to read? Text 36.
Sorry, Prabhuji, can you say which chapter?
Chapter 6, text 36.
Okay. My Sanskrit also is bad, but I will try my best. Yeah.
Please do.
असम्यातात्मनो योगो दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः वस्यात्मना तु यताता साख्यो वाप्तुम उपयातः. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Mataji. The Supreme Personality of Godhead declares that one who does not accept the proper treatment to detach the mind from material engagement can hardly achieve success in self-realization. Trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. Yoga practice without mental control is a waste of time. Such a show of yoga may be materially lucrative, but it is useless as far as spiritual realization is concerned. Therefore, one must control the mind by engaging it constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. A Krishna conscious person easily achieves the results of yoga practice without separate endeavor. But a yoga practitioner cannot achieve success without becoming Krishna conscious. So the point is, if we are trying to move in Krishna consciousness and we still continue to feed the material attachments, then what happens is, it's like, as mentioned, pouring water on fire and trying to pouring water on wood and trying to light fire with the wood. It won't happen. The wood has to be dry in order for the light to ignite. Now, most of us here are entrepreneurs and fairly successful in our lives and doing extraordinary things. So what does that mean for us? And any thoughts, any realizations, anything you want to share?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Prabhu, here it is written that who strives by appropriate means. Like, is it like the way or the yoga process Krishna is talking about, appropriate means?
Yeah, just like he mentioned before, suitable practice. So the 9 processes of bhakti that we discussed, eating prasadam, doing activities in Krishna consciousness.
Okay.
The one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work, but he whose mind is controlled, who strives by appropriate means. So first mind control is required, then one can strive to be in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, with an uncontrolled mind, Krishna consciousness is not possible, right? So for example, chanting X number of rounds. Some of you are chanting 1 round, some of you are chanting 16 rounds. Now, some days the mind will say, not today, right? So if we don't have control over our mind, we'll be like, okay, it's okay, not today, maybe another day. But if there is control over the mind, it's not an option. No is not an option. No matter what, we have to do it. This is my duty, right? Telling truth versus telling lies, right? Mind might say, it's okay, just one time, not a big deal. Versus controlled mind, sorry, not an option. I am a devotee of Krishna. I represent certain principles and I cannot break the dharma. Dharmic principles are something that I have to adhere by, right? So that these kind of things. So as devotees, there are certain things we do, certain things we don't do. And that requires control over the mind. Now, my question, I really want a little bit of thoughtful, conversation today. That's why I'm asking a few questions. I hope you work with me here. So now somebody who smokes, right? And this actually is a real statement. Somebody who smokes mentioned to a devotee saying, I can smoke. Look at you guys. You cannot eat what you want. You cannot smoke what you want. You cannot do ganja. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. Your life is so miserable. You're like in a prison. And look at me, I'm so free. What would you say to such a person? This Krishna is saying mind control, right? Now, is the person controlling the mind in a prison? Or the person whose mind is not controlled in a prison is free bird running around? Who is more free? And why?
Free because he's aware of the result, and there's somebody who is not aware of what the pitfalls would be, so he's engaged in it and he thinks that's right. So there's a little bit of enlightenment required.
True that, but somebody who's smoking is saying, hey, I'm happy to smoke, nobody's stopping me, you cannot smoke. Who's more free, the person who's able to smoke or the person who chooses not to smoke?
Chooses not to smoke.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I would say that.
Sorry, go ahead. Hold on, Presh. Jashrimati just completed.
No, I'm saying the person who chooses not to smoke is more free.
Why?
Because he's aware of what the dangers are of doing that. So definitely he's more free. Okay. While somebody is doing it for some temporary, self-gratification. And see, the thing is the end result of all this, because like for example, you don't take care of your health, it's not that tomorrow you're going to fall sick, right? This is going to be a gradual process. So you know that somebody else, the other person who's smoking is going to lead himself into trouble for sure. Whereas the other person is more aware and he's making more measured, calculated steps because he knows the journey that he is going. And he's aware of what he wants in the end, and that he's going to get it through whatever he's doing now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mataji. Yes, Prayash, go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say that we like a devotee chooses not to smoke, though he can. So he or she has control over it. But a smoker or an alcoholic person doesn't have that choice, because he or she has already made that choice to indulge himself or herself into that action. So basically, his mind is controlling. His emotions are controlling him basically.
Right. Very
So
right.
he is not free.
So actually, so this devotee, the smoker who was telling this devotee that, oh, you guys are like in a prison, you cannot smoke, you cannot drink, you cannot do whatever. So this devotee responded back, said, I can smoke. Nothing is stopping me. I voluntarily choose not to smoke. But can you choose not to smoke for even a day? Right? And then he realized, like, yes, because you're addicted. You are bound. You are actually bound because you're addicted. Something else is, that is managing you. One of our Philosophy Friday persons, I'm not mentioning him, he mentioned to me very proudly, said, oh, Prabhu, if I want to give up ganja, I can easily give it up. I can give up anything. I'm like, okay, that's wonderful. Give it up for a week. It's like, yeah, I can do it. Not a problem. Okay, for a week. And he did, and he was miserable. And but I said, so that's not the process, right? So don't get so puffed up and proud. Maya is strong, much stronger than you think. And only way to get over that is through Krishna. If you do rehab and other things, it will, it can eventually creep in. Many people go through rehab and again get addicted and whatnot. And addiction is, I'm not trying, I have no agenda against smokers. Please don't get me wrong. If anybody's smoking, I have no issues with that. But the point is, it's addiction to anything. It can be Bollywood music, it can be anything. Some people are addicted to gambling, some people are addicted to all kinds of things. Point is, are we being controlled or are we in charge? That's freedom, right? Am I choosing or am I at the choices made for me already? So freedom is, I am choosing to live a civilized life. I'm choosing to live a God-centric life. I'm choosing to live a dharmic life. It's a choice. And if I tomorrow think, what, Krishna consciousness is bogus, I'm moving on. I can move on. No problem. It's freedom. I have freedom and I'm choosing. But materialists don't have that freedom. Thank God it's Friday, right? And what's happy time, happy hour? It's at the bar. So that's not freedom. That's escapism. So that's something we should really be confident about and understand, that Krishna consciousness actually gives us freedom versus other things. There's some in the chat section. Let me see. Engaging the senses in Krishna's service. In material nature, temporary pleasure feels happiness. Shubhamay, one who is addicted is slave to his mind like a prisoner. Deepak, that person is a servant of the mind, but other person's controller of the mind. Surely, smoker are in temptation and there is constant urge to smoke, so he isn't free. It is more like a trap he is in. Okay, Deepak, that person is Godas. The other person is Goswami. Nicely said, Deepak. All right, good. You guys are listening. Okay, so without mind control, spiritual progress won't be possible, at least in its fullest form. Or rather, you're going forward, going backward, going forward, going. Take a step towards Krishna and then 10 steps backwards, right? But that's okay. Even if that is the case, keep struggling. Krishna will help you. Krishna will inspire you, or Krishna will send such misery. They'll be like, Krishna, please help. And naturally, all things detached. It'll be like just taken away from you, right? That also happens. If one is sincere, Krishna might sometimes, one attachment is dragging along, and suddenly Krishna comes and just yanks it out. It hurts. It's painful, but eventually you feel freed. You're like, wow, that now it feels good. I'll share this with you. One time, maybe it was Janmashtami or something, we had this drama in ISKCON Chicago. It was very powerful for me. There was a little kid and they put all these bags on this kid, right? And these bags were attachments, money, education, this, that, all kinds of attachments that this person had. and shows like, okay, this person meets a devotee, gets a book and starts reading the book, and slowly one of the bags falling off, another bag's falling off, another bag's falling off. And then there's some big bags that are like deeper to the core. These are deeper attachments, right? And the person is like, no, not this bag, Krishna. I don't want you to have this one. And then Krishna slowly comes, the devotee who's acting as a Krishna comes and kind of gently pulls that one. No, I want that bag only. Like, no, Krishna, not this attachment. Come on. And then, one after another, the last attachment, Krishna kind of like takes it away. You won't believe me, as soon as that happened, the curtain opened up. Kishore had this like, wow, it's such a beautiful, and I still remember it so clearly because it had such an impact, because I was visually able to see how attachment works and how, even though it's a burden on our shoulders, we want to hold on to all these attachments. No, I'm comfortable this way, right? There's actually a story I'll share. So there's this lady who used to go to the forest every day to collect wood, and she was old and she was not able to carry all this wood, and sometimes wood would fall off and she's not able to bend down. And one day she was carrying all this wood. As he was coming back home, the wood was falling off and she was not able to bend off. So she called out Krishna's name, Madhusudana, please come and help. And Krishna appeared like that because her call was very pure, very intense. And Krishna said, what can I do for you? And she said, can you please put up all those wood chunks and put it on my shoulder? Krishna said, I can relieve you of this altogether. I can, take away all these problems. It's like, no, I don't want you to take away all the problems. You just put the wood and put it on my shoulder so I can carry it back. So Krishna did that. And that is sometimes our materialistic life, where we are too attached to our attachments. And like, no, Krishna, don't take this away. I know this is good for me if it goes away, but that'll make me very uncomfortable. So kindly don't do that. Now, don't get worried. Krishna will only yank out what will help you grow, not what will break you. There are certain attachments. Like, I was very attached to my grandmother growing up. And when I went to America, I was always scared, like I won't be able to be there with her during her last moments. It was one of my biggest fears. And my mentor always told me, Avelo, don't worry. Krishna will not test you beyond your ability. He will only test you a little bit to stretch you. And as you grow, he'll stretch you more, That will continue for the rest of your life. My spiritual master said the same thing. And I knew my biggest thing was my grandmother, the attachment, and I didn't want her to. She went to the hospital many times, and I always prayed to Krishna, please, not her, don't take her away, please don't, right? And Krishna kept her. She somehow survived. She was very old, 95 years old. And there was this time that came, the detachment came, that I could love my grandmother from a spiritual vantage point, right? That this person, I love her unconditionally, and it was clear to me, the body and the soul, the difference between the two. And the soul never dies and the body dies. And I was like, yeah, Krishna, if this is what you want and time is right, then you can take her. And I was there with her at her last moment, holding her hand, chanting Hare Krishna. It was a beautiful way. I was able to fulfill my desire, of being there. So Krishna took her away when I was ready for it, right? Not, if that happened even 2-3 years before that, it would have been like ripping away a part of my body. That's how attached I was to her. Now, that doesn't mean my love for her went down because being detached. Actually, my love for her grew. I was able to love her without being selfish, that I want to hear, although she's suffering. My love was, I wanted to be happy. This body is no more worthy of being here. So go to a better place, where, wherever that Krishna will take you to a much better place. So love becomes detached. Love it's about you. I want you to be happy, even though it's going to destroy me, right? It's going to hurt me like anything. Of course, I cried for days. Still, sometimes middle of the night, I think of her. I'm like, it's painful. It feels like hollowness in the heart. Having said that, I'm happy that she's not living that life in that 95-year-old body, which is painful for her. She is happy wherever she is. And that's what detachment looks like. It is not about me. I want things to be this way. That's attachment. Detachment is, I want, but your choice over mine. Krishna, your choice over mine. Devotee or serving, your choice over mine. And that, again, that doesn't mean exploitation, right? But the mood of service, the mood of love is that you are more priority than what I think. And what you want becomes my desire. Right? That's Srimati Radharani's mood, actually. That's, of course, she's at the highest level. So her mood is, Krishna, I don't like to see you go anywhere with other women. But if that makes you happy, I want to make that such a pleasurable experience that I want to be the maidservant of that lady who you are with. Right? Serve her so she can make you more happy. So that's detached love. That I want this, but if this makes you happy, so that's what I'm going to do for you. Now, we don't see that kind of love in material world unless it has a spiritual element to it. Then you will see such love in the material world also. Spiritual love is like that. Right? So that is what detachment looks like. And Krishna's humbleness, he's saying that is my opinion. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. For he whose mind is uncontrolled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. The Krishna, I want this, but if you want that, fine, I'll go in that direction, right? So detachment means I'm not attached to my ideas. I'm dynamic. Whatever you give me, I'll work with it. Whatever situation you put me in, I'll work with it. Honestly speaking, I never thought I would come back to India. Just thought never occurred because I was so well situated in the US. But when I came here, I was like, okay, I'll work with it. Krishna is very kind. He's put me in this place. This is my country. Okay, let's see what's ahead. And thanks to my mentor, he was always telling me, Krishna has a plan. Krishna has a plan. Because I was completely clueless coming here. It was like no network, no connection. In the US, I was like a celebrity. I was like, everywhere I went, it was like center of attention. Here it's like nobody knows me, so I am that kind of a person. I am a person who likes the limelight, who likes to be out there, who likes to shake hands and be there, come from a political background. So that's who I am. But the thing is, Krishna had a plan and I'm just going with that plan. And tomorrow if Krishna decides that plan is somewhere in London or some other place, sure, that's what it is. So what happens is you become much more dynamic and you're much more fluid. You can move. And if you see in startups, that is a very important quality to have as a founder. You have to pivot. Maybe your idea was blah, but from market research, from data analytics, from understanding of the market, you realize this is where the market is telling me to go. So you keep moving to where, and you realize what you thought and what you are is far, far beyond where you even thought of being. And that's the beauty of being dynamic. Some people are stuck up and they cannot move. And I was helping a very, very successful person with his startup dream. And, he's CEO of one of the largest advertising companies in India. And when he realized that his idea was evolving into something that is brilliant, he backed off. He said, sorry, I don't want to do it. It's not what I dreamt of. I understand my dream is not right and that won't work, but where I'm going is not my idea. So I don't want to do it. So he went back to his job, being a CEO in a company and not being an entrepreneur. So that's the difference. Attachment, attached to my way or the highway, versus my way. Krishna has a better way. And Krishna says, I am adventure. If you understand it, go with the adventure with Krishna and you will be blown away. His plan is far better than ours because his intelligence is infinitely better than ours. So, okay.
Oh.
Next verse. Or anybody wants to say anything? Go ahead. No? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Yogesh Prabhu.
Prabhu, so you had said that it is either, my way or the highway, right? So if it is Krishna's way and it is our way, then does it mean that, we do not make plans?
No, we do make plans.
Think about it?
We do make plans, but be ready to pivot the plan. Right? As circumstances change, like last year, because of pandemic, lockdown, many of the businesses that did really well at Kolkata Ventures, these guys were completely pivoted based on the needs of the pandemic. Instantly they pivoted and they were able to make huge profits, right? So make plans, but be also in a mindset to change the plans as you go along, because that's life.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Sure. Arjuna vacha ayati shraddhayopeto yogach chalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gatim Krishna gacchati. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism?" Kachin no bhaya vibhrastas chinnabhram eva nashyati aprastishto mahabaho vimuro brahmana pati. O mighty Aunt Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? So this is in Hindi, they say, "Dhobi ka kutta da ghar ka da ghat ka." Right? So that's what Arjun is literally asking. That, if somebody starts on the spiritual journey and gets distracted after a while, so then he lost his spiritual success and material success. He's like left nowhere, isn't it? He's asking Krishna, because he dies and that's over. Jai Srimati, you have a question?
Yes, I had the question in the previous sloka that actually, I mean, yeah, we all go. It's like we say, okay, it's a gut feel of, okay, this might be good, and we take the convenient path. But how do we actually know that this is Krishna's plan?
Vaishnava guidance. So somebody is guiding us in our lives, in spiritual life. That somebody should be spiritually grounded, should know the scriptures. And from the scriptural vantage point, they should be able to guide you. Just like here, Arjun is on the chariot. But Srila Prabhupada is saying that the words of Bhagavad Gita is as good as Arjun being on your chariot. But how do you know? Right? So somebody who understands the Bhagavad Gita can decipher that quote for you. Like a few months ago, I had a very strong question, a life-changing decision I had to make. And I asked my spiritual master, my guru, that you are representing Krishna in my life. Can you please contemplate and give me an answer? And he generally responds in 2 to 3 hours, but he took a week to respond. And after, a week, he told me, I contemplated this, I thought through, and this is what I'm getting the indication from Krishna. This is what I would recommend. Here are the 3 aspects. Right? Extremely fortunate to get such advice from a pure devotee of the Lord. That's the process that we have. That's the position of the guru or those who represent the guru.
So that's the challenge now, that everybody needs to find someone like that.
Right. But that is also Krishna's mercy. If you're looking, he will find you someone.
So is it that the spiritual guru is answering questions only related to spirituality?
No.
No.
We have a material body, so we have material problems too. There is guidance. Of course, if you say, how much should I invest in the stock market? That's not that kind of answer you will get.
No, not
But
really.
having said that, should I marry this person? Should I sell this car? Should I buy this house? Should I, is this the right thing for my spiritual journey? So the answer you will get is in relation to the spiritual journey. That, here are a lot of devotees here. You should buy a house here. That way you'll have devotee association, or you're close to the temple or whatever else, right? So you'll get that level, not like, should I invest here? Should I do that? Not material answers, spiritual answers about material. So material problems, spiritual solutions.
Okay. So when the time will come, the guru has to arrive, right?
Chapter 10, Krishna says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. I give you the intelligence by which you can come back to me. Right? So this Cheta Guru, Krishna is there as super soul, as Cheta Guru. Right? If we can hear him, sometimes we hear our mind and think it's Krishna. It's not. So with spiritual progress, you'll be able to decipher between the mind speaking and Krishna's, Paramatma's voice in your heart. So he's there as Paramatma, as Cheta Guru. And Paramatma manifests externally as a guru. So within ISKCON, we have certain personalities who are gurus. So we can see who is the personality that I would like to take Diksha from. I would like to accept as a guru, right? And based on that, we can reach out to them, email them, and be mentored by them, guided by them. Or if they say, okay, here is a disciple of mine who can guide you before you get initiated. There is a process with that. Slowly, you can move in that direction. But of course, anybody who you trust, who's spiritually well grounded, can guide you in the point of Bhagavad Gita, as long as they're coming in the Guru Shishya Parampara. Right? They're initiated in the line of Brahma Madhava Gauriya Sampradaya or any of the other 3 Sampradayas. Am I making sense?
Yeah, because some things like, because that Sampradaya and all, I'm not aware, so maybe we need to.
In this book,
yeah,
when you open in the introduction, end of introduction, you will find the Sampradaya. It's there. Just read it.
So we need to find out the about the Guru. I mean,
so in this Sampradaya, this is the Brahma Madhava Gauriya Sampradaya. It ends with Srila Prabhupada, right? And then thereafter Srila Prabhupada, there are other teachers, other gurus within ISKCON. So if you search, don't search, because you'll find all kinds of things.
I know.
Just, there are gurus within ISKCON. Where are you located, by the way?
I'm in Dubai.
You're in Dubai. So Damodar Desh, we call it Dubai. So Dubai, Jayapataka Maharaj has many disciples. There's other gurus who are also, who visit Dubai often. Are you connected with the Dubai temple or the Dubai congregation?
No, we have a Prabhuji who takes Gita classes for kids and for adults as well. So we are actually in the 18th chapter there. In between, I had missed some, so. But yeah, I asked him the same question. He said, so when the time comes, the Guru will arrive. So I said, I've been asking him since a year actually. So I was wondering, okay, who's going to give me this answer?
So by Krishna's mercy, you get Guru, and by Guru's mercy, you get Krishna. That's how it works, right? So if you're sincerely seeking, Krishna will, it's not like you just think, you also should search, right? Within ISKCON, there are so many Swamis and Maharajas, who are initiating gurus. Whether it's Sachinandan Maharaj or Radhanath Maharaj or Jayapataka Maharaj, so many personalities. So based on that, whose mood matches yours? Like my Guru Maharaj, Ramapad Maharaj, for me, he was the perfect person because quality over quantity. He's intellectually, he's philosophically very, very sound. So for me, I chose him, and he would also come to Chicago often, right? So I had direct access to him. Thereby I could learn from him directly. So geographical proximity was also a factor. So for you might be other factors. But as you kind of, look at these personalities, hear their lectures on YouTube, you will understand, oh, this is a person I really want to take initiation from. So Krishna from within will tell you, this is the person. But you have to make the endeavor. Go on YouTube, listen to lectures, and see who touches your heart.
Right. Thank you.
Most welcome. Till then, if you have small questions, I can always answer them for you.
Yeah, sure, I know.
Okay. So here Arjun is asking a very valid question, and we are 3 minutes there. Okay, good. Asking a very valid question. If you don't complete your spiritual journey, what happens, right? So next verse, Krishna, again, Arjun continues. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. Like without you, who else will destroy this doubt? So Krishna speaks. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Partha Naiveha Namurtra Vinasha Tasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschid Durgatim Tatagachati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities, does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. I'm just reading the English now. Sanskrit I'll read next time. Or if unsuccessful after a long practice of yoga, he takes birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such birth is rare in this world. So Krishna is speaking something very, very encouraging. So he's saying, if we don't complete in this life, no problem. One will be born in a rich family where you don't have to worry about money matters. You can focus on spiritual attainment. Or if you're a little advanced, you'll be born in a pious family where by birth, the surroundings remind you of piety. You're born in a pious family where there is puja, where there is, Krishna consciousness already there. And one who has performed Krishna consciousness for a long time and then failed, for such a person, he'll be born in a devotee family, right? In a bhakta family, where the parents are very, very spiritually advanced, right? And in such a family, you'll not forget anything. So any of these births, as you start the bhakti process, you will start off in that next birth from where you left off. So no fear. You will start off from where you left off. So nothing is lost versus, think about it for a second. Einstein, let's say, theory of relativity is physics, this, that, such great knowledge. Next birth, he'll start from ABC 1, 2, 3, right? Because material knowledge doesn't transfer over like that. Of course, some cases you will see little kids playing the piano beautifully. How? Past life memory. Some cases it does continue. But spiritual stuff definitely continues. Krishna says that you will never lose where you started, right? So in ISKCON, because there is a proper process for Garbhadhan Samskara, when you have a child, the parents are supposed to chant 50 rounds. My best friend did that. 50 rounds, mother and father both chant before the process of conceiving the child. And so, the mood is not lust. The mood is inviting a soul to the womb who can be a great devotee of Krishna. With that consciousness, amazing children are born in this movement from a very early age. They have very, very strong affinity towards Krishna and the devotional process, right? And I see that all the time with devotee children, amazingly gifted in terms of growth in spiritual life. And that's because of this blessing that Krishna is saying, that you will not forget where you left off. So next birth, you will continue from where you ended. So this is very encouraging. Even if there is fall, even if we don't complete, there is no loss, we will continue from here on. So I'll end it here. Thank you very much and have a good night. Unless somebody has a burning question.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Hare Krishna. Have a good night, everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Bol.